day is not over just yet.
Woohoo! USA! USA!
We have an action-packed hour for you 6 p.m. drivers.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for August 29th, 2024. I'm Matt Skraby. Thank you for listening. If you want to join the show, you can on YouTube. Just search 97.3 The Fan. It's been that long since I've done a show that I forgot where to go if you want to watch the show. Go to 97 or search 97.3 The Fan in YouTube, or you can go to Facebook, the 97.3 The Fan page, or you can go to Twitter at Matt Skraby is where that is at, MattsKraby as in boy, Y. I am so happy to be doing a show tonight. I'm so happy to have all of my friends with me alongside. We got Gonzo, M. McKee, Jacob, Matt, Katrina, Alex. So all of those people are now watching the show. Gonzo says, I love how Elo calls it the Chronicles and won't say Skraby Show. I'm coming around. I'm fine with the Chronicles because it kind of sounds cool, but I've already done all my graphics and everything to say show, and Chronicles is a much longer word than show, and Chronicles will be a much harder thing to fit in a graphic than show. So there you go. That's my explanation for that. Well, if you're just getting in your car today and you don't really know anything that happened with the Padres, they did fall in their second straight game to the Cardinals. And so they split the series with the Cardinals. They win the first two, obviously, and then they lose the last two. Today, Sonny Gray was very good. They lost 4-1 today after losing 4-3 last night, the Padres did. Michael King, I will say, he did struggle today. He wasn't his best. He will tell you that. He went 4 1/3, gave up 6 hits, no earned runs, but that was because there was an error. He did walk 4 and only strike out 3. So his ERA right now is very good, 3.05. But in the last 2 games, he's had some runs, unearned runs instead of earned runs. And, I'm definitely not thinking the sky is falling. Come on. The sky is not falling. They're playing incredible baseball. They've been playing incredible baseball since the All-Star break. They're going to be fine. But something we talked about on the show earlier on Gwen and Chris that I think is something that we need to address, and that would be Jurickson Profar and whether or not he needs some rest down the stretch, because as we said earlier, Jurickson Profar has been struggling, so like in the last maybe month or so. And if you go to his last 30 games, so that's a good chunk of games, Jurickson Profar is hitting .220 with 3 home runs, 14 RBIs. He has 20 strikeouts, and his OPS is like 700 in the last 30 games. Not the Jurickson Profar that we had seen in the first half of the season. Jurickson Profar, obviously, he's had an incredible year. He's had a magical year. But is it time to maybe think about letting him rest for the end of September? And if I were to think Tony, if he were here right now and I were to ask him that question, I think he would say, no, don't rest him because you don't want to take him out of rhythm. But really only Jurickson knows how bad that knee is, and we've seen the knee flare up a few times this year. And Jurickson really is struggling at the plate, which is hurting the Padres, and especially in the last 2 games. He went in the last 3 games against the Cardinals, he went 0 for 4 in each game. So he was 0 for 12 in the last 3 games. And if I go and see what he did in that last game, the first game, against the Cardinals, he was 0 for 2, but he had 2 walks in the game. So he's now down to 282 in his batting average, which is still a good batting average. But basically what I'm trying to say is that Jurickson Profar is in a little bit of a rut right now. I feel like he's going to turn it around. I feel like he's going to be okay, mainly because Jurickson Profar loves to play in the big moment. And big moments are coming up for the Padres with the last month of the season. And if the Padres are lucky, the playoffs, I'm not going to guarantee them a playoff spot because I got a DM the other day saying, hey, don't jinx them. I try not to jinx them, but I also don't have anything to do with whether or not they get a playoff spot. But a healthy Jurickson Profar, a magical Jurickson Profar, all of the above is what's needed for the Padres to make a dent in the postseason, make a dent in the National League West. And losing the last two, they're not going to lose too much ground because the Diamondbacks have done some losing as of late too. The Dodgers have been winning, so they're, trying to extend their National League West lead. So there's still a lot of games left. As we said, they've played 136 so far this season. And there is plenty of time for the Padres to turn it around. But the Dodgers are 79-54. And the Padres right now are 76-60. They're 4.5 games back of the Dodgers, and they are also 1 game behind the Diamondbacks after they lost to the Mets today. So if you look at the wild card standings at the moment, we're looking at the Padres still in that second spot, that second wild card spot. Diamondbacks still in the first wild card spot, but it's not the cushion that we saw earlier. And each game from here on out is going to be very important because earlier in the week, or maybe even last week, the Padres had a 4-game wild card lead over the third and final wild card spot, the Braves. But the Braves have won 3 in a row. They were winning the game that they're playing right now against the Phillies 4-0, and the Phillies ended up coming back. Now they're leading 5-4 in the top of the 8th inning. So the Braves may lose this one, but they've won 3 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Padres are only a game and a half above the Braves right now for that third and final wild card spot. So, it's easy to say it's just 2 games. Who cares? They've been playing well, which they have, and all of that is true. But at the same time, they cannot afford to lose any games because the National League is playing so well. National League West is playing so well. And it's fun for baseball fans, number one, but it's going to be nerve-wracking down the stretch. And I think that they're going to need Jurickson Profar to be a little bit more rested than what where he's currently at right now. He's got to be tired. He's played so many games this year. And Jurickson Profar is going to tell you he wants to play every single game. But sometimes you have to maybe take the decision out of his own hands and kind of sit him down here and there. And like we were talking about it earlier, when Fernando comes back to the lineup, he's back in right field. You could put Peralta in left field. You could put plenty of guys in left field for a day to spell Profar. But right now, the 148 he's hitting in his last 7 games tells me that he needs a little bit of a break. And the slump that he's been having over the last 30 games is slightly concerning to me. Slightly concerning. And so I'm hoping that they can rest him a little bit once Tatis comes back, which Chris had a pretty good idea of when he was going to come back, and that would be this coming Labor Day. Like next week, he thinks Tatis is going to be back with the team and healthy and on the roster and all that stuff. So if that's true, then Profar just needs to get through this weekend, and then they can rest him here and there. Do I think they're going to do that? I actually do. They know more information, obviously, than any of us about what is going on with Jurickson Profar. But I think that they need to do something to restart the magic that he had earlier in the year through the All-Star break. And even after the All-Star break, he hit the tying home run on Sunday against the Mets. But when they're becoming fewer and far between right now, his magic moments. And of course, I'm not saying that the season rests on Jurickson Profar's shoulders. It's a team sport. They got guys like Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Fernando, all of that. But Jurickson Profar was the catalyst for everything that has happened this season. I mean, Jurickson Profar was a great clubhouse addition. He's not making any money. he's the wild card for the Padres. Every team has that wild card. The guy that you don't expect to be as good as they are, and Jurickson Profar is the Padres wild card this year. And it's been fun, but now that we're getting to the end of the season, I think it's time to rest up. Rest up, Jurickson. Let's see. Diesel says Profar won't be able to rest until Toddy comes back. Yes. Jacob says, yeah, I used to be really superstitious about Padres baseball. Now I'm only a little stitious. I'm superstitious too, but I don't want to be. It was Joe Musgrove's no-hitter, I think, on Friday last week when David Peralta made a really nice catch in right field to save the no-hitter early in it. And then I put out like a tweet that said, those type of defensive plays are what lead to ... Well, trying not to say it immediately. Next batter, hit out to David Peralta, and he gives up the no-hitter. So maybe I did jinx that one. I don't know. I really don't know. Jack says they paid $1 million for a glue guy and got an MVP contender. Might be the best deal in Major League Baseball history. I don't know about in history. When you say in history, I get it. You're trying to state that it's very important. But I'm sure that there's been someone throughout the history of baseball that has been paid less and done a lot more. But I can't say that for sure. Can't say that for sure. Now, I was planning on doing this in the next segment, but I'm going to do it right here. Matt Snyder, and I tweeted this out earlier if you want to go and read it, at Matt Skraby, MattsKraby as in boy, Y. But Matt Snyder put out an article on CBS Sports saying, here's the title. Is Jurickson Profar an MVP candidate thanks to Padres heroics? Depends on how much you care about win probability. Now, I know for a fact that Shohei Ohtani is most likely going to win the National League MVP. And I know this isn't how it works in the real world, but I 100% believe the MVP should be the person who helps their team the most. And it's going to be tough to argue anything but Shohei Ohtani right now. But Matt Snyder made some good arguments for Jurickson Profar. His stats, when Matt wrote this, with runners in scoring position, he's hitting 347, and I can't do the math in the OPS, but it's high. Late and close, and we talked about this on the show, 436 he's hitting, and his slugging in late and close situations is 873. His high leverage, he's hitting 405. His slugging is 797. So he's got an OPS that's through the roof in high pressure situations. And what Matt Snyder is trying to argue is that his win probability added, like he goes into this whole thing, and I'll use his example. For example, if a team has a 60% chance of winning and a player hits a clutch home run, it can move to 80%. That 0.2, 20% goes to the player's WPA. In 2018, David Bodie's walk-off grand slam with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth turned a 3-0 deficit into a 4-3 Cubs win. You can't really impact your team's win probability more than that. That play was worth 0.9 WPA. So what he was looking at is the WPA leaderboard, win probability added over time. And if you look at the AL, Juan Soto, 5.1. Aaron Judge, 4.7. Bobby Witt Jr., 4.7. And Corey Seager, 4.1. No one else in the AL has more than a 3.2 win probability added. Now, if you look at the National League, this is where Matt Snyder makes his point. Jurickson Profar leads the National League in WPA, win probability added. And it's at 4.8. Shohei Ohtani is 4.3. Marcelo Ozuna, 3.9. Jock Peterson, 3.5. Brandon Nimmo, 3.3. And Ketel Marte, 3.1. That's what Matt Snyder is saying. If he is the leader in the National League at win probability gains for his team, there's some sort of argument there. There's some sort of argument that he could be the MVP. Now, lately, he's taken himself out of consideration a little bit, a lot of bit. And remember, I went into this conversation saying that I know Shohei Ohtani is most likely the National League MVP unless something crazy happens. But in my definition of MVP, thinking the player who helps their team the most, Jurickson Profar, you can't argue that Jurickson Profar hasn't helped his team the most in the moments that they've absolutely needed him to help them. And Shohei Ohtani, obviously, you take him off the Dodgers are not as good. But Shohei Ohtani has had walk-off home runs, walk-off hits, all that stuff. But I don't know that he's had the impact in the big, huge moments that Jurickson Profar has this year. I just remember back to when Will Smith called Jurickson Profar irrelevant. The next day, Jurickson Profar clears the bases with a double against the Dodgers on Sunday Night Baseball. Remember that? That was huge. That made the team, that gave the team a boost, and it gave them the win, and it gave them the series win, all of that. Moral, I don't know how to say that name. I love Profar, but I don't think he could win MVP with only 21 home runs in a power hitting league. I get it. Everybody wants to see the home runs. But again, I feel like the MVP, the classification of MVP, the definition that they're using and my definition are way different. And I'm not saying that Jurickson Profar should win MVP, but I am saying that he has been incredibly important for the Padres this year. And there needs to be some consideration for Jurickson Profar for MVP. Should he get some votes? He probably should get a few votes. I would love to see him on the list of MVP candidates because that would, that would help him out for the future. It's another resume booster right there. All right, that was my Jurickson Profar for MVP talk. When we get back, we're going to be talking about Luis Arraez and his spot in the order. Also, there was a tweet about Ha-Seong Kim that I want to bring to everyone. And we'll talk about it when we get back on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan.
Network.
Welcome back into the Skraby Show. Thanks to everybody for listening. Happy to be doing a show. It's been quite some time. We do have a daily gripe to get to. We do have the Hassan Kim stuff to get to. But I was just talking to a coworker in the hall, and I'm not going to reveal who it was because I don't know if they want this said on the radio. But they gave me, and I don't know why I didn't think about this earlier about Jurickson Profar, but when he said last night, we were talking about the bunt all show long, and I was going to talk about the bunt too that he made last night in the 9th inning. I was going to talk about it, but we talked about it so much on the show. I think we got all of our conversation out, but I am kind of mad at myself. I didn't think about this because, and I'm taking this and stealing it, but the problem wasn't that he bunted. The problem was his reason for bunting. If you look at his quote after the game, he said, they asked him, why would you bunt? He said, you didn't see my at-bats tonight? I was 0 for 4, you know? And that does tell you something. And I'm really thankful I ran into this person in the hallway. Because I think it means, it concerns me. The confidence level for Jurickson Profar, looking at that comment, is low. Because at first I took it as, okay, he's a team player. He knows he's not going well. He needs to do what he needs to do to win the team. And that comment of him saying, I was 0 for 4, you know, you didn't see my at-bats tonight, that does give me a little insight into what's going on in the head of Jurickson Profar, and he's not very confident right now. Now, he's a confident human being. He could find that confidence in a second, but come on. That should tell you volumes about where he's at right now at the plate. And I don't think that this non-confidence is going to be something for the Padres to have to deal with for a while. Because I said Jurickson Profar will find his magic again, and he loves the spotlight. But that is slightly concerning. That is slightly concerning that Jurickson Profar wasn't confident enough to swing away. Because AJ Cassavell tweeted out, you know, the decision to bunt took the Padres win probability from 67%, and then when Arise got on third, to 68%. If you have a guy on second with no outs, and you let Jurickson Profar swing away, I would think that I would feel better if he was swinging away than bunting. But obviously he didn't want to swing away in those circumstances. He thought the best way to help his team was to bunt last night. And again, not trying to make a huge deal out of this, but it does give you a little insight into what he's thinking at the plate. He just didn't want to swing away because he was 0 for 4, and his best option to help the team was to bunt. So there you go. I'm looking at the chat to see if there's any sort of reaction to that. Moral says, I feel like making the All-Star team was fuel for him to be even better. Yeah, I agree with that too. I agree with that. I mean, he wanted to make that All-Star team. I don't think that he's falling off because he didn't make or because it's not like he's not playing for an All-Star game. I just think he's tired, to be honest. All right, Adam and I, real quick, before I go into the Arise stuff, I want to tell everybody that next Wednesday, September 4th, from 2 to 5:30 p.m., Gwyn and Chris, so me and Chris and Tony's going to be on the show, but he'll be at the Petco Park. We are going to be at the new Buffalo Wild Wings in Mira Mesa, located at 9690 Reagan Road. We'll be giving out 3 pairs of tickets to the Padres-Astros game on September 18th. Plus, Buffalo Wild Wings will be signing people up for 10 lucky people to win free wings for a year. So all you have to do is come during the show on Wednesday, September 4th, 2 to 5:30 p.m., 9690 Reagan Road. And I will be partaking in boneless buffalo wings, or boneless wings, maybe mango habanero. I love that mango habanero, but I don't eat the wings off of the bone. I came in here, and yesterday it was, and I walk into the kitchen, and Adam is sitting there, my boss, and he was just going to town on some wings, bone-in wings. And I know I'm the weird one for not liking to eat bone-in wings. I do. But he was just going to town on those wings. And it grossed me out. Not the Adam grossed me out, just eating of the wings and seeing the bones and the carcasses after the fact just sitting there on the table doesn't really mesh with me. I don't mind if people eat wings around me, but I can't sit at the carcasses, or I can't stare at the carcasses all dinner long. All right. That's out of the way. Adam and I also got into a conversation today about Luis Arraez. And this conversation all hinges on Jurickson Profar kind of being what he once was this season. Luis Arraez, do we want him in the leadoff spot? And the reason we were talking about this is because his on-base percentage is not very high. He does get on base a lot, but he doesn't walk a lot. And so it's out of the three true outcomes, I mean, Luis Arraez doesn't strike out that much either. So the three true outcomes that he's getting a hit, and he's getting he's just getting a hit. He's not walking at all. Well, shouldn't say at all because he is walking, but he's not walking at a high enough clip to raise that OBP to a spot where he's a leadoff hitter. And I personally want to keep Luis Arraez in the leadoff spot for the rest of the season. I think that's where he needs to be. But there is a conversation, just like the Profar MVP conversation, there is a conversation about Luis Arraez and whether or not he's the right guy for the leadoff spot, because he's getting on base. But he's getting hits to get on base. And if you move someone up like Profar to the leadoff spot, which we've seen him do this year and do well, Profar is working walks, and I'm assuming we're talking in a vacuum about Profar, the guy we've seen all year. He is walking, and he is getting hits. He's getting on base. So why wouldn't you want Jurickson Profar at the top of the lineup to get on base and to get his walks, get hits, whatever, and then have Luis Arraez drive him in, or at least maybe move the runners with a fly ball to the outfield, because Luis Arraez is not going to be getting on base through walking. And if you want to maximize, I guess, the abilities of Luis Arraez, why wouldn't you have him driving in some of the guys ahead of him by being in the 2 or 3 spot? That's basically the conversation. And I personally don't think that Luis Arraez needs to move them from that spot. But there is something, again, to be said about his on-base percentage not being higher. I'm going to go get those stats right now. Jurickson Profar has walked this year, going to his career page, he has walked 60 times this season. Now I'm going to go to Luis Arraez. I actually just clicked on Buy Padres TV instead, and that's not what I want. And, of course, the internet is going a little slow. Kind of just stumbled into this take in the break. Luis Arraez has walked this season 35 times, so almost half of what Jurickson Profar has. That tells me a lot. It does tell me a lot, because if Jurickson Profar, so Luis Arraez's on-base percentage, .339. Jurickson Profar's on-base percentage this season, .379, which is a big difference. It doesn't sound like it, but it is a huge difference. And I'm looking at the chat. No one's really saying anything which way or the other, so yeah, I guess it's not that big of a deal. Oh, Sleeps said, yes, Luis to 2 spot, Tatis 1. Okay. That is something that he could do. I could see Fernando leading off. Fernando is a great leadoff hitter. We all know that. But I would like to see. That wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't mind moving Fernando to the leadoff spot. Keep Profar where he is at the 2 spot. Maybe Arraez in the 3 spot. Then you get Fernando getting on base or hitting a home run or whatever. And then you have Jurickson Profar do his thing. Then you have Arraez drive those guys in. Or you get Arraez to single and you have Manny drive him in. I think that might be an option as well. But you can't discount Fernando's power. Don't you want him to hit home runs when their guys are on base? I'm basically just asking one open-ended question tonight. But this is the Skraby Chronicles, the Skraby Show. So anything goes in the Skraby Chronicles, Skraby Show. I feel like today has been a little bit of a weird day. We didn't get much, there's a lot of interaction on the chat all the time. I'm not talking bad about you chatters, but I just feel like everybody's kind of in some sort of blah mood today. So I'm going to keep trying to entertain until 7 p.m. here on 97.3 The Fan. I'm Matt Skraby. This is the Skraby Show. We're going to talk about that Hassan Kim tweet I saw earlier. We're also going to quickly mention the top 5 richest college football players in the country based on NIL money. So we'll go over that as well. We got a lot to fit in here in a little bit, and we also have a daily gripe. So stick with me here on 97.3 The Fan. Can't believe it, but it's already the final segment here on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks to everybody for commenting on the chat about the lineup question. A lot of people want to keep Luis Ariz at the top with some great reasoning. One being hitting is contagious, which is true. It is contagious. So we've had some lineups thrown out there. Jack says Ariz, Toddy, Pro, Machado, Bogey, Merrill for your top 6. I don't mind that. I don't mind that whatsoever. But we'll see what happens here with Jurickson Profar. See if he gets a little bit of rest or anything like that. All right, let's get into this Ha-Seong Kim tweet because I've been talking about it since the start of the show. But this is from Joseph Kim on X. Now, I'm not sure of the relationship between this person and Ha-Seong Kim because it seems like they know each other, and I tried to confirm this earlier today, but I could not figure out if they actually knew each other or what. But this person does have insight on Ha-Seong Kim and insight on some of the other Korean players around baseball. So it's at Black Wings 2011. And Joseph tweets this. Honestly, free agent Ha-Seong Kim market will be busy. 1. His priority is to stay in San Diego, but he knows about SD's financial status and business. 2, he's ready to accept any result, but he'll miss the fans and the Ha-Seong Kim chance. 3, the half of MLB teams or more teams will probably knock on his door because he won the utility gold glove. 4, Joseph's choice will be, or I guess his choice, he's saying, the tweeter's choice, will be the Giants because they're so ready to welcome him, so I think San Francisco will be his best. 5, his price will exceed $100 million. So let's break this down real quick. Do I think that Ha-Seong Kim is on his way out after this year? Possibly. I know he hasn't had the greatest season. I know that he's made some mistakes this year. But I think if, there are people out there that are like, get out of here, Kim. It's fine. Go play somewhere else. I think that would be a mistake. I can't remember which guest told us this, but they said that Ha-Seong Kim's defense is highly sought after around the league. And I know that we watch it every day. We've seen some mistakes. But for the most part, no one has any worries about Kim playing shortstop. You see a ball go to shortstop, you're pretty sure it's going to be handled. And it usually is by Ha-Seong Kim. So if we go to number 1 and we break this down that way, his priority is to stay in San Diego, but he knows about SD's financial status and business. That is true. And I'm sure that he wants to stay in San Diego. But how do we know what the Padres are going to do here in the offseason? I don't think that this is any indication of what they're going to do. I don't think this tweet is telling us anything about the future of the team. But they've already gotten back under the luxury tax number, so they don't have any issues with that. Not saying they're going to go spend $100 million. Not saying that they're going to spend $50 million on Ha-Seong Kim. But if his priority is here in San Diego, that gives the Padres a little bit of a, upper hand on things. This one, so he's ready to accept any result, but he'll miss the fans and Ha-Seong Kim chance. I think he'll definitely miss the fans, and the fans are going to miss him, but the Ha-Seong Kim chance are probably going to travel with him. Come on. Half of MLB teams will probably knock on his door because he won the utility gold glove. Goes back to what I said about the guests that I can't remember their name. With them saying that his defense is so good that there are so many people out there so many teams out there that'll take his defense no matter what his offense looks like because his defense is that good. So I do think the teams are going to come calling for that. I really do. Final one, his price will exceed $100 million. I could see it. I don't know how many years that will be or anything like that, but I could totally see Ha-Seong Kim getting a deal with another team for over $100 million. There are teams willing to spend money, but it's kind of like the Brandon Ayuk thing. And now that Brandon Ayuk is back with the 49ers, I could talk about it in a real way because I wasn't sure for a while. But it's kind of like the Brandon Ayuk thing. Do you really want to go somewhere else, or do you want to stay with the team that you've come up with and that you're familiar with and that you've played with here the past 4 or 5 seasons? Ha-Seong Kim, it's like is the grass going to be greener on the other side? I know that he won't want to leave money on the table, nor should he want to leave money on the table to stay in San Diego. But you can go if you really want to be a shortstop for, trying to think of a team real quick that's not very good off the top of my head. If you want to go be a shortstop for the Toronto Blue Jays, go for it. But is that going to be a better situation for you? I mean, I've had situations here in the past where I've applied for other jobs and interviewed for other jobs, and not to say that I've, received a big job, but I have had offers for other jobs, and I've said no because they weren't the better situation for me, and I'm looking for the right situation for me. I don't want to just move halfway across the country because they're going to be paying me, $5,000 more a year or whatever. I'm not willing to pick up and leave because of a couple $1,000s. Now, I mean, that would change a lot of things for me. I'm not saying that I'm swimming in money, but the grass is not always greener on the other side. And we've said that here on this show many times. The Skraby Show, Gwen and Chris, Tony talks about it. Sometimes things just go, you think that it's going to be better when you think that it's going to be better when you go somewhere else, and then you get there and you realize, wow, it's kind of the same as the last place or even worse than the last place. But if he goes to the Giants, that would be hardcore right there. That would be some hurt. Going in division to another team, and his friend, Jung-Hoo Lee, he plays in San Francisco. They're best friends. They paid over $100 million for him and his services. Why wouldn't they pay Ha-Seong Kim $100 million for his services? So this is a very interesting tweet, but still, we still don't know what decision he's going to make because he can opt out. It's like I don't want to say it's a player option if it's not a player option, but I do. I've looked at this page so many times this year, and I keep forgetting exactly what it is. But he signed. I'm getting to it right now. Because he has the option. He does. And if he doesn't feel like he's going to get more than $7 million next year, it's a mutual option. Both of them have to want him for $7 million in order to have him come back to the team for that $7 million. And he's going to say no. $7 million is he's being underpaid. So maybe the Padres do something. Maybe the JH619 says, I think for 8 to 9. I do not think he's going to accept $2 more million. I don't think so. If he's going to get a new deal, it's going to be more than $7 million per year. AAV, average annual value. It's going to be more than that. Are the Padres willing to spend that? Oh, Lisa says something on the chat that's very astute. Short-term extension in Hosmer's $12 million paycheck ends next year. That is true. That is true. That is some extra money to spend. Friar Phil says the team and I will miss HSK vibe that he brings to the Padres. Yes, I think that they will, but we also thought about missing Franmil Reyes' vibes, and look what happened. We forgot all about Franmil and went forward. I Need Money says Giants can have him, especially for the money people think/say he's going to get. And I do agree with that. I'm not willing to overpay Ha-Seong Kim just to keep him in town to make people happy. You got to do what's best for the team. And it's not like they don't have a trillion shortstops in the organization anyway. I mean, they're not going to move Jackson Merrill back to short. They're not going to move Fernando back to short. They're not going to move Xander Bogaerts back to short. So who's going to play short next year if there's no Ha-Seong Kim? That's a conversation for another day as I shoo it away in the camera. I shoo everything away. Okay, so the top 5 college football players, and then we'll get to the Daily Gripe. The top 5 college football players, how do I explain this without sounding dumb? The top 5 richest college football players in regards to NIL money. There we go. Number 5. Which I find this very interesting. I know why it's this way, but you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. Quinn Ewers, Texas quarterback, $1.7 million in NIL money for this season. Jalen Milroe, Alabama quarterback, $1.7 million for this season. Travis Hunter, Colorado, which, by the way, Colorado is losing right now to North Dakota State. And Travis Hunter scored a touchdown that game. He's third, $2.7 million. Now, here's where it's a little weird. Arch Manning, the quarterback at Texas, is a backup quarterback. His starting quarterback makes nearly half of what he does. Arch Manning is going to make $3.1 million this year. Obviously, with his name being Manning, I know that the attention is on him. But that's got to sting a little bit if you're Quinn Ewers. Like, hey, I'm the starter and I'm making nearly half of what you're making. It's pretty crazy. No one's got anything, though, on Shedeur Sanders. No one's got anything on Shedeur Sanders. He's now a Nike athlete like his dad, Dion. But he's making $4.7 million in NIL sponsorships this year. I don't understand it. I understand Shedeur Sanders being a highly coveted person to represent your product. But I don't understand the love for this Colorado team when they didn't even finish that. They had a 4-8 season, whatever it was. It wasn't a good season. They had a good start, but they really didn't have a great season at all. At all. We can ask Sean Lewis about that. He was the offensive coordinator for them last year. And then he was removed in the middle of the season, probably because, and I'm just saying this is no proof whatsoever, probably because Dion was tired of not scoring and he thought it was someone else's problem, and then boom, he removes it and they still don't score. So it's not Sean Lewis's problem. 4 of the top 20 players are Colorado Buffaloes, including 2 of the top 3. So that just tells you that everybody's looking at Colorado. There's lots of eyeballs on Colorado. So you're gonna give money to the better players in Colorado because of how much attention that they get. The SEC has the high rollers, they say. They have the most in the top 20 by conference with 9. So if you want to get paid, go to the SEC. And yeah, those are the notes for that. I have no problems with these guys making this amount of money. I really don't have any issue with it at all. I just think some of these guys, like Arch Manning, hasn't even done anything. And I know that his name is Manning, but I wish I was paid like some of these athletes are, where we're going to give you money just because we think you're going to be good at something. I would love for that to happen. I mean, Shedeur Sanders at least has a year of playing under his belt, and he put up good numbers. And I guess he's predicted as the number 1 overall pick in the NFL next year. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but at least Shedeur Sanders has a little bit behind it to prove, or to show that he's at least a guy that has numbers behind his name. Anyway, that's me complaining about everybody else making money, and not me. I know a lot of people that feel that way. Let's see. JH says ESPN loves Colorado, so they get marketed. True. Rod says roll tide. Ugh. Jack says HSK to the Rockies, let him hit 182 and come back as Profar version 2. That might be a good idea, Jax. That might be a good idea.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
All right, if you have any gripes, put them in the chat, please, because I have a couple minutes for this. I couldn't actually come up with a daily gripe that I really, really, really wanted to talk about. Jacob says daily gripe billionaires. Yes, I could daily gripe about billionaires all day, every day. But my daily gripe is about me today. And I'm slightly OCD. Like, I'm not bad OCD. But recently, I've been doing something that really, really bothers me. And it's this thought. I get in my bed at the end of the day. I'm about to go to sleep. And I think, did I lock my car? Did I close the windows in my car? I know I was driving with my windows down. Did I leave my windows down? So as I'm in bed, having this go through my head, oh, look at me rhyme. I am thinking, no, you're crazy. You locked the car. The windows are up. Don't worry about it, dude. I can't go to sleep until I get outside and check that car. I can't. And that's my daily gripe, is my slightly OCD nature of checking things that I don't really need to check. Like, I don't need to go back and check that I turned the oven off when I didn't even use the oven. And I've done that before. I've gone back to check to see if the front door is locked or not. Many times I've done that. Many times. I have been late to things because my OCD takes over and I have to go check it. So there's my daily gripe. I need money. Daily gripe. Bob Melvin. That is all. Hey, Bob Melvin's working for the Padres right now because they're not winning and they're not putting pressure. JH, my gripe is how cheap MLB owners spending no money. We need salary for more than anything. I love cheap teams finishing in last place. Yeah, I could. Gonzo says Doomer's gripe. Yeah, I don't like Doomers either. It's not my favorite. Rod says gripe, carpool lane and motorcycles. If they can move to any lane, move out of the way. Going 55 in the carpool. It's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Going 55 in the... All right. Thanks for listening to the Skraby Show. Back tomorrow. Tanner Scott's scheduled to be on Gwen and Chris. Talk to y'all later.